Hi,
Oh, hey, how are you? How are you, Dr.
very
Dinov?
well.
Welcome. Welcome. Would you mind if we record this meeting, the presentation?
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's
Okay.
good.
Will be great. So great to see you, and let's wait about 10 more minutes. Do you
Yeah.
want to say something about yourself, or you want us to present you?
We don't have to go overboard. I can say, for myself a few things. Yeah, either way is fine.
Well, there are some important things that people need to know anyway. So, how is the weather over in Michigan?
Well, it was good over the weekend, but now it's back in the 30s.
Ah,
Feels like we're
bless
sliding back
you.
into winter.
Lucky you, lucky you. We're sweating
Ah,
here.
okay.
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta at the ACS meeting actually. So,
Ah, okay.
back
You're
in
also traveling. Okay,
Tallahassee.
that's good.
Yeah. Uh, so,
So these are monthly seminar series that you guys organize?
weekly actually, weekly.
Weekly. Okay.
We
Nice.
have presenters, different kinds of presenters. We're trying to invite people from different areas and what mainly related to AI and
Mm-hmm.
digital learning and stuff like that. So I just came from a presentation where one person said, elderly guy said, AI is my enemy. I don't like it. Yeah,
Well,
but then he agreed that AI is here to stay, and there is no
yeah.
way. Yeah. Otherwise, very interesting stuff. Uh, we It's 3:52. Well, let's wait for about 10 more minutes for people to
Yeah, makes sense.
come, and we'll start after that. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Good
everybody.
afternoon.
Uh, we're yeah,
We are
two
gathering
minutes
steam.
until 4 o'clock. Yeah. This is Dr. Oh, pardon, he muted himself. Anyway, hey, Dr. Ulo, are you here?
I'm doing okay. I had a spring break, so I'm happy.
Here's spring break. Okay. Well, yeah, it's over though. Almost.
Yes, you got like a few more minutes.
Yeah, well, it's 3:56, so we have a few more minutes. You know, people keep coming all the time. So, let's wait a while. By the way, do you hear any noise from my side? Because people are, I mean, outside in the foyer, and there are all kinds of
You're good,
people.
Nelly. You're good.
Yeah, good. That's good. Okay. Hi, Dr. Ula. You're on mute.
Okay, is that better?
That's better, yes.
Uh, let's wait a few minutes before we introduce our guest speaker. Um, Probably about 4 or 5 minutes. Is that okay with you, Dr. Dinov?
Absolutely.
Okay. We're expecting more people. And thank you very much for agreeing to speak with us. We're very pleased to see your topic. It's something that
I appreciate the invitation. Yeah. We
it's
should
something
give,
that
what we do here at Michigan is we give extra credit to students to participate in these.
oh
I'm
yeah.
sure you have more students. That's for
Oh yeah.
sure.
We have quite an active research cluster actually. We right now have about six data scientists and about 10 domain specialists joining us. Anyway, there's a lot of activity going on with the cluster, and so we're glad to hear
You
you.
must be doing really well. Well, here at Michigan, we've replaced all these people with AI systems.
There you
Ah,
go. There you go.
Yeah.
it's not
There
very
We
you
had a
go.
we
encouraging.
had a very large 50-year-old Center for Statistical Consulting that went the way of the dodo bird because we built an AI consulting agent that's better, faster, on demand, cheaper, and it covers more domains.
Of
So
course.
so we
Of
essentially
course.
save $5 to $6 million a year. And of course, I mean, some of these colleagues, they have to find other occupations, but
Exactly. And honestly, uh, many universities are just going to go away if they don't move into this world. This is
yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the Chronicle of Higher Education put out a couple months ago, put out a treatise on the next 10 years. It's called The Next 10 Years in Higher Ed. Talk just exactly about this. So, you know,
It's gonna be brutal, bloodbath.
it is. It's already started.
Yeah, here at Michigan, in the last year, we closed 2 or 3 colleges just in the state of
Oh,
Michigan.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
And across the U.S., there is about 100 or so, 120
Oh
colleges that
yeah.
closed.
Oh God,
Yeah,
yes. Oh, I know.
this is yeah.
And
I
one of
mean,
the things, I've been very much involved with HBCUs and HSIs over my whole career, providing major grants that, impacted getting their computing programs off the ground, that sending consultants that I had, grants I had from NSF. Anyway, we had already lost so many HBCUs because of their lack of an appropriate cyber infrastructure. And now, we're going to be losing if we don't keep up to date here in infusing AI, data science, across the curriculum. That's where we are. So you see how it's picking up? We're getting our people are
yeah.
joining.
We're also encouraging our students to participate with the hope that they can hear, something will come through them, although they won't be probably completely understanding everything, but they'll grasp something which will plant the seeds. And at one point, this will grow into something much bigger. And I think this is really the case. So let's see, maybe, yeah.
Just their students are joining.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's give just a couple more minutes and then we could start.
Well, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Well, I guess maybe we can start.
Okay. All right. Then, so I know there will be more people joining us. We'll be hearing these bells ringing as they try to get in. And excuse my voice. I guess it's allergies here. But anyway, welcome everybody. It's great to see this participation of people getting back from spring break. Anyway, and I know people are probably still at the airports trying to get back from spring break. As I hear how crowded the airports are in Houston, actually, the lines at the 2 Houston airports went out through the front doors and into the garages, by the way. Anyway, so I am so pleased to present a very distinguished speaker today from University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. And please correct me if I get the titles wrong. I tried to put this together in a reasonable way. So my understanding it's Dr. Dinov. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, Dinov, yeah.
Okay. Uh, so Dr. Dinov is from the Department of Computational Medicine and Bioinformatics at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Henry P. Tappan, collegiate professor and professor of health and behavior and biological sciences, who's going to speak to us on a very, very interesting and very timely topic for all of us, the realities of augmented intelligence. So go ahead, Dr. Dinov. We're very pleased and excited about your participation in our Monday series.
And I want to
Sounds
add
good.
something very important before that. On the top of everything, even though Dr. Dinov is a very busy person, I know how he finds time to coach the men's water polo team at the University of Michigan, but he loves water polo and he's doing a lot of, physical work on this, which really deserves admiration. So you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for joining. I obviously was in Tallahassee for a number of years in graduate school, so I have a lot of appreciation for the FAMU FSU College of Engineering. In fact, one of my co-advisors was in the College of Engineering. So Yeah, thank you for the invitation. Just in case, I pushed it in the chat, but just in case people join late, if you want to find more about the Statistics Online Computational Resource, just do a Google search on soccer. The first link that comes up is the Statistics Online Computational Resource. If you want to find the slides, keyword search on Google for soccer news. The first page that shows up here is the page, and you can find the slide deck right up here. So I am a firm believer of science, and that's why I wanted to start with that very quick note of how you can actually track down the content that I'm going to be presenting now. I believe if something is not openly accessible online, it just does not exist. So I'm going to switch now into full mode presentation, and when I do that, obviously we are going to have a little bit of a I don't see the faces anymore, so Nelly or Richard,
I'm
please.
here. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm asking to, I'll try to break at some point and once or twice during the presentation and see if there are any questions.
Okay.
So the reality of augmented intelligence, notice how this is not artificial intelligence. I'm referring to human machine augmented intelligence here in this talk. All right, so briefly, what is this talk going to be about? It's roughly speaking going to take we're going to go over three different topics. We're going to start with the background of artificial intelligence, and we'll present the current state of AI. That's going to be part one. I'll try to make a little pause if there are any questions before I transition to part two, which I apologize in advance, but it will be a little technical. And it's important to understand that these sophisticated systems do require substantial foundational STEM understanding, okay? And that's why, you know, I personally believe it is important at a college of engineering and technical school like FAMU and FSU to actually continue with the rigorous training, education, and assessment of the future scholars that will actually have to carry the ball forward. So that's going to be part two over here. And then in part three, it's going to be a brief part that we're going to talk about the implications. So that's the goal. Let's start at the very beginning. Now that's a little bit of a busy slide, but the point of this slide is I believe every one of us, I'm sure, would be able to find themselves in one of those roles here. This slide essentially tries to explicate what I would call the duality of evidence-based scientific discovery, right? The notion of the end-to-end paradigm from experimental sciences, which started, the first sciences are totally and completely experimentally. People throwing balls in the air, shooting arrows, and so forth. And then the theoretical sciences came afterwards with the notion of abstraction. Then came in the 20th century the computational sciences, and the data sciences started in the 21st century. Now that led to AI, and I believe that loops back now into the experimental domain. So you see how you have this trajectory from experimental through theoretical, computational, data, AI, and experimental. So here, the important thing is that you have two columns. The first one is the analysis column, and the second one is called the synthesis column. Let me just, I'm not going to go over all of these four scenarios. The first one is a mathematical duality. The second one is a more biological duality. The third one is a data science duality. And the last one is an AI duality. I'll just explain two of these, and I think everybody's going to get the message. Basically, what's happening is let's consider DNA packing, right? Everybody knows that the DNA is the genetics code for life, and it's packed in the cell chromatin, right? So generally speaking, the chromatins contain enormously long DNA molecules that obviously are associated with the proteins that are synthesized. And these are very tightly packed. They're compacted in the DNA. In order for the DNA to be used, read, and duplicated or expressed, it needs to be unpacked. So that is the process of the synthesis, right? So you pack and unpack information. Everything that we do in sciences is about risk estimation and transforming, mapping, relating compacted objects of different kinds to more expanded versions. This last example that I will show you over here is the notion in the analysis phase when we build these AI systems. What we do is we essentially take data, we design a framework, typically some kind of a neural network or deep neural network framework that allows us to feed data in, and with human ingenuity and computational infrastructure, we design these foundational generative AI models. They're called games. Okay. Now, these games, okay, once you go from data to a game, then you can go from a game to a synthetic generation of a response. So the game can generate data. So again, the synthesis and the analysis are the two dual processes that are used in scientific discovery throughout. And obviously linear transformations and inverse linear transformations, Fourier transform and inverse Fourier transform, these are our examples. So with that understanding now, I want to tell you a little bit about AI. For most of us, AI is essentially a synthetic mock-up of common human intelligence tasks and processes that we do on a daily basis, or we use on a daily basis. AI manifests as applications, services, algorithms, interfaces, APIs, for those of you that are more computationally oriented, and integrated computing environments and decision support systems, where these decision support systems support health, insurance, government operations, or other tasks that's secondary. Now, the development and utilization of AI system is predicated on 4 important components. First of all, massive amounts of complex, heterogeneous, incomplete, time-varying, and multi-source data, something that most of us refer to as big data. The second important pillar to build these systems is the availability of integrated computational systems, elastic clouds that provide effective human and machine interfaces. Okay. The third important component that AI is predicated on is efficient data management systems. How do we aggregate it, harmonize it, augment it? And again, we're not going to have time to discuss all of these things, but data augmentation is pivotal. How to process it, how to visualize it, how to build these game systems and have them regenerate de novo, novel data. And the last one is you actually have to have the sophisticated techniques, methods, algorithms, and infrastructure to allow these systems to be pragmatically built, deployed, and service the needs. Now, the applications of my work is predominantly in healthcare, so that's why I've included here a number of references, for those that are interested in, that show how more biomedical data is actually created daily that can possibly humanly be analyzed. So we spend a lot of resources, human, time, funding, and all kinds of other things to collect data, and it turns out that the vast majority of it cannot actually be used, simply because we don't have quantum computing yet. And there are many opportunities to optimize existing processes with AI systems. Now, AI, we fancy ourselves that we, currently in the 2026 are, the society and the life species that invented AI, but the ancient Greeks had fantasized about, mythologically, about giants that can actually hypothetically, protect against invading ships and so forth before the current era. Okay, Al-Jazari in Mesopotamia suggested the existence of programmable automata as mechanical devices in the 1200s AD. This is almost 1,000 years ago. People had thought that there exists or there could be built programmable automata. And then, obviously, Gottfried Leibniz and René Descartes had suggested around the 17th century that all rational thought could be made as systematic as algebra and geometry and reduced to mechanical calculations. I mean, imagine for most of us, this is during the early Renaissance years. So these polymaths had actually that vision of what we now call AI systems could be designed. And then obviously in the 20th century, the invention of actually digital computers, Turing test, the Dartmouth Summer Research Project on AI. Everybody knows these things. And then the AI winter, for about 50 years, nothing happened, simply because we didn't have the powerful hardware that's needed to do these massive amounts of calculations. It wasn't until Garry Kasparov beat Deep Blue in a chess match in late 20th century when people kind of woke up a little bit, and we knew that the computing power is beginning to open up. Now, here is a little chronology. The Soccer AI bot was released just 3 months after OpenAI released the ChatGPT. So in the Soccer group, the Statistics Online Computational Resource, we've been building these systems for a while. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about what's the current status quo. What can these AI systems do, how they do it, and what they may not be yet up to par. So they can synthetically simulate intelligent text. We all know that. Simulate realistic 2D brain images of different modalities. We're not talking about schematics of cats and dogs and graphical abstracts. We're talking about specific renditions of what Leonardo da Vinci would have done, 500 years ago on a piece of paper. These AI systems write software code very well, and I'm sure you've heard about the ramifications of that power. They can solve theoretical problems. In my group, we developed, I'll show you in a moment, the Space-Time Analytics project, which interfaces between mathematical physics, statistical computing, and AI. And there is a lot of abstraction that needs to happen. We have to prove upper bounds on various estimates. We have to do mathematical modeling. We have to do statistical inference. We have to do AI predictions. There is a lot of theory there. So AI has been very good in identifying holes in our abstract result formulations. Okay. Now, the other thing to remember about AI is that it's polymatic. Okay. Humans are monomatic. We like to do one task at a time, more or less linearly. These AI systems, they're polymatic. They can do a whole bunch of things. They can reason in parallel on multiple levels. Okay. So these are very, very relevant. Now, the thing to realize with AI systems is that there is two parts to an AI system. The first part, which is the difficult task, is to design, train, tune, and validate them. That takes a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of energy, and obviously to some extent a lot of cooling and ingenuity to design them in the first place. The second task that we all love to do is what's called statistical inference, right? We essentially like to interact with these systems, and we expect instantaneous gratification or a response of the kind that we see, right? So these are typically cheaper, faster, and more intuitive for 99.9% of us. Those unfortunate souls that have to design, though, they have the difficult task in the back end. So there are obviously promises and some perils. I'm sure at FAMU you've realized the drastic changes that are occurring throughout the academy. Before we started with the presentation, we had a brief discussion on this. AI has potential to catapult scientific discovery forward, democratize access to knowledge. Access to knowledge. I mentioned the Soccer AI consulting agent that we built. It's openly accessible online to the world. Anybody can ask it to provide a statistical consulting response or a statistical data analysis plan, right? By specifying what's the framework in which you operate. But there are some downsides as well, right? It may introduce, for those of you that were around, I know most of you are probably young, but I do remember, the year 2000 when the internet was in its infancy and we were talking about digital divide, right? Those with access to the internet and those without access. Later that became dial-up versus broadband. Now it's AI access versus no AI access. There are also difficulties controlling potential training biases, precision and variability trade-offs is what the statisticians call it. There is obviously, a lot of discussion right now. I don't want to get into the details, but how to utilize AI systems for social and environmental good. Now, and I remind you here that, again, many years ago, airplanes were very, very dangerous apparatus, right? But they became the safest mode of transportation, safer than cars, bikes, and running shoes, by us putting a lot of effort to fine-tune every single aspect, right? And the last bullet point here says, well, guess what? The ultimate AI is always about to arrive. The race is on, and there is no finish line here. All right, so let me just show you a couple of examples that may, from my perspective, boggle the mind a little bit. The AI ecosystem 2 years ago is shown on this diagram. Do you see any academic institution represented in the big ones 2 years ago? No, there aren't any, okay? And that's a wake-up call for the academy, all of us, collectively. Over 2,000 institutions in the US and 20 to 25,000 institutions globally. None of them is on this chart. 2 years later, pretty much the same thing, right? The AI ecosystem has evolved. Here are the big behemoths. We all love to use them. They're dominating. Now, in soccer, again, here's the website if you want to look at some of these things. We've developed a number of systems. Some of these I'll briefly describe just to give you an idea of how these operate. So we have training agents. We have, here at Michigan, we're replacing teaching assistants by what we call Michigan Intelligent Teaching Assistants, MITAS. So these are very highly responsive. They can be trained on a specific domain for specific class, for specific field, for specific school, for specific college, for specific instructor. These can be highly trainable agents that can be trained, and then they provide for your students, undergraduate or graduate students, instantaneous response, just like a TA or a professor would. We have built an interactive learning platform. I'll show a little bit more about it. We've built many clinical decision support systems. They're called Clinic. We've built digital twin simulators, very powerful ways of generating highly realistic, high-dimensional human health digital twin data. We've built probably one of the most powerful open access statistical data analyzer out there that has the AI consulting agent embedded in it. So you go to the statistical data analyzer and you say, well, I have data of this type, this many features, that many cases, that the data is acquired at this many sites, longitudinally, cross-sectionally. Here's the complexity. What's the right parametric, non-parametric, or model-free method to use for this data? The statistical consulting agent responds to you and says, here is the tool. Upload your data, and it's going to analyze it for you. From zero to hero, literally in 30 minutes. So there is many of these things, okay, including a virtual hospital we've built. All right, just a little bit here as an example. In the Night Trainer, there are modules that talk about, for instance, AI writing, an ethical paper, proposal, report, and other scientific writing content, right? How to do this in an ethical way, right? So we've built training modules for this. We've built a highly innovative interactive learning platform where suppose all of us are part of the same class, but we're not sitting necessarily. We could be sitting, being co-located in space-time in the same auditorium, but we could be just like we are right now, probably across the world. I hear Nelly's in Atlanta, I'm in Ann Arbor, many of you are in Tally, so we can be sitting anywhere. Typically, when an instructor leads a class, right, if they ask a question, one student at a time may respond. If you're lucky, most of the time they don't. But if you're lucky, one person raises hands, responds. This system allows you to pose a question of different kind in this ILP interactive environment. Pose a question, upload files, and all the students respond in synchrony, and then the instructor shows the aggregate responses on the fly. So you essentially have a means to touch every student and in aggregate assess how much did they get whatever is being discussed, right? So you can assess the level of comprehension, the level of apprehension, if you wish. So students can post, there is a chat, there is upload, there is emojis, the whole shebang, okay? So we build one of these systems that you can build for your class, a channel, they're called channels, and then use it kind of going forward. Coming back to the augmented intelligent agents specifically in health, we have built a system that allows you to essentially go in with your knowledge base, text, images, data, hierarchy, for example, the human phenome ontology. So you plug in your knowledge base. Think about medical encyclopedia, papers, review articles. You plug it all in. And you train in your browser this AIA agent. You train it in the browser for free because it runs on your hardware. And then it exports an embedding which allows you to call a RAG system, retrieval augmented generation system, that allows it to respond now semi-intelligently to prompts about the knowledge base that it was contextualized or trained on. This is the general AIA agent, and we've also built it to recognize images. We've tested it with ophthalmology, eye images, retina, cornea, whatever. So you can train this agent with images. Now, before I transition into the more technical part, I want to make an important point for all of us that humanity over millennia started first with the arts. The arts have been around for tens of thousands of years. The sciences, we started the sciences about 2 millennia ago, okay, roughly speaking. So we have to have a respect for the arts because without the arts, there wouldn't be any sciences. So humanity is defined as this very nuanced societal construct where the arts and the sciences blend together to get this notion of, prosperity, wealth, growth, social norms, social values, and so forth. So I think all of us need to remember that it's not just the computer science, it's not just the STEM sciences. We have to embed the arts, humanities, sculptures, design, performing arts, literature, music. It's all predating very significantly what we tend to refer to as the sciences. So that's an important message. Now, let me show you, if I may, some really, really cool illustrations to show you how powerful current modern AI systems are. On the right-hand side here, you see Leonardo da Vinci's original Mona Lisa, okay, in the Louvre. On the left-hand side, shows you a generation 1 AI system that is trained as an apprentice. So this is the replicator mode. AI is an excellent replicator, but this is old news. This is generation 1. It takes an object and it says, yeah, I can replicate it. Now, this may look the same, but if you actually dive very deep, you're going to see that the dress, the hair, there is a lot of differences. This is not a replication. This is a synthetically generated version into a Renaissance framework, which is designed or contextualized by Mona Lisa as a prior. That's why it's called the Generation 1 AI system as an apprentice, replicator. In the second phase, however, now you've got the AI system as a creator, de novo creation of Renaissance style paintings, where, and there is two, there is one on the right-hand side and one on the left-hand side. They're generated by exactly the same now idea. This is not a real painting. This does not exist in history. The AI system as a creator is being prompted to generate a painting of Mona Lisa now as a mother 25 years later after her own session with Leonardo, that directs the artist here to paint her own daughter. That's the prompt. So the AI obviously has been trained on what is Renaissance, what is Enlightenment, what is, old-fashioned sketches and so forth, right? But it generates highly realistic novel compositions that do not exist in practice. So that's the creator system. And now we've gone one step further. Generation 3 now calls the AI ideator. How does the AI generate truly novel ideas? In this specific case, you're asking the AI system to imagine art 75 years later, almost a century later, and ask it, reimagine a future primary art form that people are going to be looking at 75 years into the future. Most of us, including myself, have no idea what art is going to look 10 years later. Now, this is actually a very tough task, and it requires ideation from the ground up without seeding it, other than saying it needs to be a future primary art form. And it invents something called chronosculpting. Chronosculpting is a temporal kinetic augmentation. Now, that's just one frame of that chronosculpting. Here is the animation. It's a 4-dimensional art form. It obviously has the 3 spatial dimensions that you see in the scene, and then the animatory dimension kind of shows you what's happening with this chronosculpting as time progresses. So I hope everybody would agree that this is truly revolutionary, to be able to imagine something that far in the future that we haven't seen yet. We don't have a word for this kind of art yet. All right. So I'll pause here for a brief moment and stop share, just to see if there are any questions, because now, ladies and gentlemen, I'll have to get a little technical. So for the next, I'm hoping 15 minutes at least, it's going to buckle up. It's going to be a rough ride a little bit, because I have to get a little technical. And I want to pause here just to see if there is any questions or comments before we press on.
Hey, thank you for the pause. This is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So yes, let's open it up. Do we have any questions? If raise your hand, or if you want, you could put the question into the chat, and we can read it. Okay.
I have a quick question.
Or down.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, the way that it is taught is that these large language models, they're just using probability to go ahead and figure out what the next text is going to be. And obviously it's doing a lot of work in the background to figure out that probability. But us as human beings, we feel like that's not what's really happening. And so my question is, it's more of a philosophical one, as in, do you really feel that these processes are just numbers, working together? Or do you feel that the sum of the parts, the whole is, more than just the sum of its parts? Is that, something significant is taking place in the background?
That's a great question, Erdo. I appreciate it. Well, no new science, no new art is driven solely by one particular individual. Typically, there are multiple scientists coming together. The low-hanging fruit has been picked, right? The easy science, the linear science, this is all known. From here on, the science is going to be team-based and very highly transdisciplinary. The way I think of these AI systems is that they are trained, you're right, it's all probabilistic, but it's modeling the joint distribution of humanity's knowledge, not the individual probabilities you, I, and the rest of us here have. This is a very small nugget. These AI systems essentially model the joint distribution of knowledge collectively. And then from that knowledge, just like, remember, everybody has had this moment, I guarantee you. You go to a conference and somebody says something and a light goes up. You come up with a new idea. Everybody has had these moments. It's exactly the same thing, but now the AI system, when I ask it to generate this new four-dimensional art form 75 years into the future, what does it do? Well, it says, well, here's my distribution of knowledge. I'm going to try to see what's possible, what's feasible, and I'm going to draw. I'm going to render, just like you and I would randomly come up with crazy ideas. Most of them are going to go nowhere, but some of them would have legs. Nelly?
I just wonder, did you get any feedback from your students and from your faculty about the way they teach with AI, the way they learn with AI? Do they like it? What is the feedback?
Well, look, here at the University of Michigan, I know we're taking a little bit of a tangent here, but we have a large group of faculty that the provost appointed to look into the AI impact on education and how are we going to deal with students. Look, most of you, I was teaching at Florida State. I was teaching math classes in the 1990s. I know it sounds like previous millennia. In the 1990s, I was teaching math classes at Florida State, and then the debate was not about AI system. It was about the calculators. Should we allow the calculators in class or not? And this continued for about 15 years, and nobody's talking about calculators anymore. This went the way of the dodo bird, right? It's gone. Nobody remembers it anymore. The same thing we're facing now. To what extent AI is going to be embedded in the instructional mode, and to what extent AI is going to be embedded in the assessment mode? So that's a very difficult question. I don't think anybody has, well, everybody has an idea, but there is no right idea, I guarantee you this, because we need to tread very, very carefully. Very, very carefully. You can't stifle academic innovation because of misguided notions of cheating. I have colleagues, for example, that say, you got to spend $2 billion to build testing centers. $2 billion to build testing centers? Seriously? If any one of you thinks that that's the solution, we're obviously on totally different, planets. So, at any rate, it's a tough question, Ellie. I don't have the answer for you, but I'm telling you that everybody is thinking about it.
Okay. Anything from our students? I know they're trying to, keep a low profile, but don't be scared, there are no stupid questions. I told you many times about that. So please ask anything that comes to your mind. Go ahead. Anybody? Or maybe we'll come up with something later on so we can continue now with the rest. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Should we press on then? Okay. Let's switch back on. All right. So now I'll tell you about our baby here. Something really, really cool. Complexifying the notion of the event ordering that we refer to as time, right? We all know, right? How do we localize observables? How do we localize events? We say, well, Nelly right now tells me I'm in Atlanta, and if I wanted to be more specific, she's going to tell me I'm at this conference, this GPS location on the planet Earth, and now the time is 4:39 p.m. So she explicitly localizes her location in terms of the longitudinal chronological event ordering. Now, imagine if time was not on the real axis, on the positive real axis alone, but if time is actually on a complex plane. And the observable phenomenon of your temporal time location is just the magnitude of how far apart you go. So this is the amplitude of the complex number. So we essentially complexify the notion of time, and its magnitude becomes the classical event ordering, which in mathematics, physics, and analytics is referred to as time. And then we have this additional parameter here, the phase. And this phase has to do with the angular displacement. You can think of it as event direction. You can think about random sampling index, repeated measurement factor, and so forth. Okay. All right, so this is the representation. So you can see space compressed into a single line, and how you stick to it, time, but time is not just positive over the positive reals. Time is a plane. That's the schematic. So now, this is not really a new idea. Shortly after Einstein proposed the general theory of relativity, a mathematician, Theodore Kaluza, and a physicist, Oscar Klein, teamed up and they said, well, what's so special about 3 spatial and 1 time dimension? Why can't we have more? And they quickly realized that trying to extend quantum mechanics into a higher dimensional space requires compactification of the extra dimensions. So in other words, the extra dimensions cannot be observable. They're below the Planck constant. They're so tiny and curled that you cannot traverse them for real. You cannot move from this point to this point in a structured way, the way you can traverse a big circle, right? Everybody knows how to parameterize a circle, right? So they realized this, and then we capitalize on this extension. And there is many good reasons of why this needs to be done, the complexification of time. First of all, the time as an object over the positive reals is incomplete. It's just a subgroup of the multiplicative reals. It's, you know, mathematically speaking, it's a partial set. It's just unsatisfactory mathematically. The complex time completes that picture. In physics, the problem of time, which is very well known, which basically refers to different interpretations of time in quantum mechanics and in general relativity, this cannot be unified because of that problem of time. Recently, physicists reported that, you know, if you design quantum field theory over the reals, think about this as being time, and over the complex, think about this as time, complex time, your predictions are going to be distinct. So we have different predictions. And there is also the third justification of that extension of the linear time into a complex plane is the notion that if you manage to do that extension, instead of analyzing time curves, like time series, you see the blue and the red curve here, you analyze manifolds. Imagine how much richer manifolds are. Manifolds have dimension, manifolds have curvature, manifolds have fractal dimension. They have all kinds of other rich objects as opposed to cross-sectional foliations, which we call time series, that either stay stable, go up, or go down. Time series only track behavior increasing, decreasing, or staying stable. Here, if you have the entire time surface, you have a much richer computational object to base your inference, your prediction, your scientific response to a risk assessment strategy, for instance. And there are some publications if people are interested. So, all right, so this has to do, this extra time dimension has to do with random sampling. Here is the first animation that kind of shows you if you have a distribution, just a universe, the simplest of all. The simplest of all. Here is a manually drawn distribution. You take a sample of these things, and then you ask yourself a question. The question could be, well, what is the measure of centrality of this sample? So I'm trying to infer that unknown distribution from the samples that I get. Well, how do you do it? You compute statistics. Okay? Something very similar happens with time, with complex time. You take random observations in time, which is the time here is the extent of the horizontal axis, and then the 3 distributions, the black, the green, and the red one, kind of give you a particular orientation that corresponds with the repeated measurement sampling. Okay, so here is your duality for those of you that are more visual learners. Coming back, all right, so here are your 3 processes, the green, the red, and the blue process. Space is on the vertical axis. And now time, I have these repeated measurements. Every one of these dots represents a measurement at certain radial time, and the phase, again, is according to certain phase law, which needs to be estimated. Now, there's a lot of math here. We know how to do the math. We know that mathematical models that are called differential equations or partial differential equations, in this case, the wave equation in multiple time dimensions is an example of what's called ultra hyperbolic equation. So these equations have perfectly well-defined solutions that are non-locally constrained. So this is great. We know that in higher dimensional times, these PDEs have solutions that are stable, subject to non-local constraints, non-local in space-time. And we can do a lot of generalization. So here is one example of a solution of the wave equation where the horizontal plane is just x and y representing space. The vertical axis goes from minus pi to pi and represents the time phase. And the longitudinal, the time dimension of this animation gives you the actual time radius. Here is the solution of a four-dimensional wave equation in two space and two time dimensions. All right, so what's the idea? Why do all of this? And I said this is going to be a little bit of a rough ride here, but I want to show you two examples that hopefully would resonate with those of you that are interested in biomedical applications, or those of you that are interested in physics applications. The physics application basically says, well, you've crystallized a protein and you want to know, well, what's the structure of this protein? Because obviously the protein structure is very important for biological function. Structure, function, you know these things better than I do. So to determine the structure of these crystallized proteins, you bombard them with high energy particles and you look what's happening on the back projection screen and you get the corresponding X-ray diffraction pattern on the back. And it only records, however, the amplitudes. The phases are not observable. You have to reconstruct them just like the time phase is not observable, and you have to estimate it. But once you estimate these things, you can do a lot of predictions. You can look at fields. You can do Bayesian strain models and so forth. In biomedical imaging, you pick one location in the human brain. You extract the time course of the functional magnetic resonance image. Because these are done repeatedly, you have multiple of these time courses at that very same location. That allows you to reconstruct the corresponding time surface. Here you apply some kind of a model, for instance, a partial differential equation model, and then you get statistical inference to find out, well, which of the regions are statistically significantly activated when the subject is undergoing a particular stimulus, for example, finger opposition task. So that's the heuristic. You have repeated measurement of longitudinal data, you transform it into complex time space, you apply your models, and then you do the AI inference. That's the logic of all of it. And again, we need to approach the end. All right, so right up here is an example. The starting series, the time surface reconstructions, the corresponding AI projections beyond the point of observations. So you can quantify these. How do you map? Well, how do you map these repeated? See, this is epoch 1, instance 1, epoch 3, instance 3, and so forth. There is different numerical, analytical, and algorithmic and distribution-based methods to reconstruct the time surface given the repeated measurement. In this case, this is a schematic just for functional magnetic resonance imaging. Now, once you have these, here is, for instance, what's happening with the Laplace transform. The Laplace transform takes a function of time and generates a function of time, of complex time. So here is one function example, right? Okay, here is another function example, right? So this is the corresponding initial function of time, and you can transform this, as you can see here, and obtain the corresponding time surface, which has a lot of singularities, as you can see, but these singularities that are controllable. We can use stereographic projection to eliminate these. And now, even though this surface does have peaks where the surface may not be differentiable, overall, it's well-defined, continuous, and you can do analytics, you can do inference on these surfaces. Okay, so there are different ways that you can do this. These are just examples of how you can do this. And now the question becomes, well, how do you infer? How do you estimate? How do you recover the enigmatic, unobservable phase? That problem is called the time phase tomography, tomographic problem. And we have worked out the math here. I know it's 10 minutes before the top of the hour. Everybody needs to go home. It's late in the day. It's Monday. You guys are coming for spring break. I get it. So we're going to finish. So we can formulate this mathematically. There is an algorithm for this. It works. Not perfect, but it works. We know how to use it for fMRI. There are a whole bunch of open mathematical, computational, and AI models based on this space-time representation of your time-varying data. We have built a lot of tutorials that show how to use these things. We have R packages, we have electronic markdown notebooks. Here is the URL. It's all accessible to you. Here is an example of the game system, the generative AI model system that I hinted to a little bit earlier, that shows you two different systems that we built. You feed an image without the corresponding diagnosis. You just feed it an image and you ask it, what's the diagnosis and what to do with it? What's the treatment? And it responds. The first agent is the second column. The second agent is the third column. It responds very, very rationally according to my colleagues here at the Kellogg Eye Center at the University of Michigan. It does great. But you know what's very interesting, you guys? You take two of these agents. Each of them has certain performance level. You take two of them, you take three of them, and you ensemble them. And then you get this massive increase in diagnostic and prognostic accuracy. And that's what human experts, you've all heard about get a second opinion, get a clinical panel to review the case. That's exactly ensembling AI system does for us. So there are implications. Okay, there is implications. There are potential benefits. We're not going to go through all of them. There are certainly very substantial benefits. Many of them resonate from productivity increases, cost decreases, time reductions, and resource utilization optimizations. These are the four basic principles of why these AI systems may actually save humanity from this hunger for constant progressive growth, less physical and less demanding stress for us. The only way that you can achieve these things is through some kind of automation, which essentially could come from AI. But it's not all clean, right? There is going to be, I mean, I don't know, most of you have seen young kids in front of their electronics 5, 6, 7, 10 hours a day. This is crazy. There is crazy stuff going on. Okay, so there is a potential for erosion of cognitive agencies, authenticity, especially in young folk. You know, how do you control, detect, correct for biases that, just like every one of us comes with a predisposition, with a background, with training, which obviously if we realize our own biases, we're going to be better people. But this is not always, it's easier said than done, right? There's all kinds of other things, okay? So we're not going to go over. Now, let me just show you one very interesting slide here. AI generated. That's an AI generated slide. The human versus the robot. Now, most of you remember the modern Hercules, Michael Phelps. From the Athens Olympics in 2004 to the Rio Olympics, 4 Olympics games. Rio was obviously in 2016. Michael Phelps, for those of you that haven't seen him, look at this. He was an incredible athlete, a perfectly built human swimming machine, period. He was raised in a hyperbaric chambers at night to lower oxygen level to increase his red cell count. It was the perfectly built system. And for those of you that have not seen the 2026 Chinese New Year celebration, have a look at the robots and how the robots performed in some of these incredible shows that they put together. My hypothesis is that right now we are at the stage in which we can build a faster, better, and cheaper machine that can beat all of the 28 medals that Michael Phelps got over his incredible career, the most decorated athlete ever. Okay, so now the question is, okay, robots can beat us physically. What about cognitively? That's a question that every one of you can actually reminisce about. So the soccer, the statistics online computational resource that I direct, its motto is it's online and freely accessible, therefore it exists. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. Okay, so there is a lot of stuff here, including some of these things that I mentioned. And because we're approaching the top of the hour, I need to end with the team It's all about the secret sauce. The team, and the team. These are the three things that we say here at Mission. So thank you very much for your attention. I'll stop here, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Hey, wonderful. Let's get back on it. Again, if you have questions, either raise your hand or speak up or put it in the chat. But this is absolutely fascinating to think of space-time and how to view, the work of the Etcher, the Escher diagrams, and how we tried to represent the Mobius band, the Klein bottle, and all of that. And now you're bringing this back and showing us how to get this is fascinating. I'm not going to get into the detail, but I'm sure probably many of the people on this call don't know what a Klein bottle is. But anyway, please, your questions. This is absolutely fantastic presentation. Anybody?
Some of the students started running away. I think they got
Well,
no. Hey, I want to hear from you. Do you want me to point at somebody?
Hey, go
ahead. I know everybody can come up with something. For example, Isabel, are you here, Isabel? Can you ask, what was the thing that mostly intrigued you in this presentation? What do you want to ask? Come on, Isabel. She muted herself.
Come on, Izzy, unmute yourself.
Come on. Lyle, Jayton. Lyle, are you here? Lyle? Tell them something optimistic, Ivo. Tell them something that, they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
This is not a scary thing. This is something that actually
not at all.
Yeah.
Well, it's something that every one of us needs to realize the potential and the potential problems with it. I have advised all of my students to think about experimenting with designing these systems, because we cannot allow a very small people like myself and others that build these systems de novo to control the world. So I am advocating for every undergraduate student, and it's not coming along very well when I advocate for this. Every undergraduate student should have been engaged in training at least one AI agent to understand the framework, to understand the design principles, to understand the limitations. I know it's not, the question is, why would somebody in humanities or music or fine arts care about how it's designed? Well, because if they don't remember the diagram that I showed you, arts and sciences together.
Absolutely.
Right. We have to bring the arts and the humanities back into that space.
Team members that are on here hear me talk about that all the time, that this is AI demands the ethos of the liberal arts be ever so much reinforced and augmented. This is amazing. They come back around so strongly. And like you said, it all started with the arts. Jeez. I see Ordell there smiling. Ordell, words of wisdom.
The only thing that I would add to the conversation is that it's going to be a bumpy ride as we're making that shift to optimizing all of those areas. And so, you have to have an open mind and be willing to work. I always tell my students that, this is a difficult change, and you do need to try to position yourself as best as possible. So you want to think about these things and understand them. Because I always tell my students, did you not feel the earth shift? Like when, for example, they introduced Clawbot, OpenClaw right now, it's called, is just an entire different world, having these things talk to each other and them having their discussions and seeing how they see the world from their point of view, right? All of these things are happening below our feet, and you have to pay attention to what's happening.
Yep.
So students, if
Absolutely.
you're afraid to talk, you can put your comment in chat, okay?
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
we can have access to your presentation, right? You send us the
Yeah.
link. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we'll have a lot to talk, and I'll be happy to if you have an opportunity or somebody from your group to continue the talk and get together again with some more about this.
I would love to hear some student comments. I just wonder how you position all of this in your mind. You know, how do you think about this? Let's see. Wait a minute. We have a couple of things in the chat.
Yeah,
Let me see. Um,
let's see.
do you feel like okay, this is from Michaela
Michaela.
Ross. Okay, do you feel like AI is effective even though it runs on water?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
We're talking about the resources that are needed to actually maintain those systems. That's what she means.
yeah. So I was going to say that this question is a double-edged sword. One is obviously the water as a cooling aspect of it, or the other interpretation, Michaela, is that running on water is only for special species, and humans are not these species that run on water too well. We think, unless you know how to swim. So yeah, tough question. We will see how far they tread water and how fast they swim in water, and how much energy they use, and how much water is going to be utilized. You know the debate that's happening right now, okay? Here in our infinite wisdom in Michigan, our city council members in their infinite wisdom decided to shut down a data center proposition that came to town, to invest and build a data center. They said no. So what do you think happens when you do that? Well, nothing happens to you. The data center gets built and you pay for this without housing it locally. That's what happens.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can stick your head in the sand and pretend the sun is not shining, but unfortunately, it is.
Let's
So
go off in a little different direction. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Jensen Huang, of course, NVIDIA, announced a new architecture, okay, what, a month or so ago. After he announced that new architecture, he went from being the first $4 trillion company to the first $5 trillion company. But this new architecture, because you brought up quantum processing, now he's building architecture where your CPUs, GPUs, and quantum processing units will be speaking to each other and governed by some algorithms, AI algorithms. How do you think this will impact where we're going? And now,
yeah,
because you did mention in your talk, the power behind uh, the computing, and when it came to high performance computing is when we moved faster into high performance computing, or bigger high performance computing, is when the AI winter started melting. Okay. So what are your thoughts on this?
yeah. So this is a very loaded field, and I will tell you, AI consumes less than 1% of the energy presently, and is unlikely over the next 3 to 5 years to exceed 3%. We as humans drive the energy that's wasted in driving is about 25 to 30% of all the energy that we use. So AI has a long way to go to catch up with our, activities. Much of it. I mean, obviously, we're not going to stop driving, But if everybody cuts Imagine 10 or 20% of their driving, we can have plenty of spare energy to compensate for the increase of the AI data centers. So energy is not a problem. Energy is never going to be a problem when it comes to AI, because these systems are constantly going to get more effective. And obviously, you know very well what's happening with alternative energies, renewables, and so forth. So, you know, I mean, it's basically a political hot potato that's kicked around to energize the crowds, you know, for certain specific, you know, policies that or propaganda that people want to push forward. I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it's a fascinating. The world has changed in so much. I mean, you know, going back to the first decade of this century, it was the automobile industry that helped melt this winter with the semi-autonomous systems that they brought into our cars. Yeah, we were all involved in that, and man, here we are, and it rapidly moved, rapidly moved. One of my PhD students at Jackson State did his dissertation in text analysis, one large language model back in 2018, 2019. By the way, if it wasn't for the Army Corps of Engineers in Vicksburg, we never would have been able to, you know, to do the dissertations that we did. But look at where we are now. Look at all the large language models we have. And it's only going to get bigger. Man, the future is, you know, so many of us would like to start all over again.
Well, that's the best thing about the students. So it's going to be a very interesting, you know, next half century that you guys are going to enjoy, and you got to ride the wave and make sure you don't fall behind, because that ship ain't stopping.
So how do we get the message out to our universities about the curriculum? This is a big challenge.
The curriculum is a tough issue. Okay, we all need to agree that the curriculum is a very tough issue for the two reasons that I mentioned. First of all, faculty, Exhibit A, are very conservative about and very protective of their curriculum. I know how to teach. Faculty control the curriculum and all that. So you're not going to be able to administratively institute the right way of teaching with or without AI. But we need to realize that, you know, over the next 5 to 10 years, you're absolutely right, Richard. There will be, you know, a tectonic shift in how instruction is conducted and how students are evaluated. And those that happen to be on the right side, whatever that side is, are going to benefit enormously in terms of prestige, applications, graduates, success stories, you know, everything like that. So the academy is poised. Now, you have to have leaders that have the vision, that are willing to take the ball forward, and not just, I mean, you know, I've seen some of these folks, job security for the administrators. I don't want, job security is number one. I don't want to fail. And I don't want to fail is a very, very conservative and maybe for some people good, I guess, strategy. But that's not leadership. That's, I don't even know what it is, because there will be these visionary academics that are administrators at the same time, that actually see the world. They don't have crystal balls, but they can probably see a little bit farther than the rest of us. And, you know, this is the only way that I can see this materializing, because, again, faculty are going to be resistant. Students are going to be moving very fast in that space.
Exactly.
Okay, without us. And in fact, I need to be honest with you, in our shop, students drive everything. Students come up with the greatest ideas. Students implement them. Students deploy them. You know, the students are the drivers. I mean, I have ideas, all right. But ultimately, the students are the engine.
You're absolutely correct, Ivan. I don't know if you're familiar with, I think it's the summer, I got to go back, The Economist, back in the summer of either 2014, I believe, had this cover feature article, okay, called Creative Destruction. Creative Destruction, okay? And that was all about how universities, how what you're talking about, what do we face today? Tech savvy students coming on board. And here we are. If the universities don't change, they are creatively destroying themselves. That was the thesis of that feature cover article back in The Economist. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we're seeing it, as I mentioned at the very
Well,
beginning.
yeah. So I'll tell you that very same economist just a couple weeks ago had an article that says the following, ladies and gentlemen. We can sit on the back of the wave and move forward. In China, 2,500 or so academic higher education institutions. About 40 of them are the premier ones.
Yeah.
Let's not call them the Ivy schools, but they're 40 really, really strong ones. So Xi Jinping calls the graduates of these wave riders. They graduate, get this, 500,000 incredible scholars. In total, they graduate, the Chinese institutions graduate 15 million people a year. Bachelor's, master's, PhDs, it's a mess. So imagine all this pool of talent. We can kind of sit and wait and be good followers, right? That's one strategy. If you want to be conservative, job security, this and that, yeah, you can say we're going to tread water lightly. To put it in water polo terms, because Nelly told you, I'm a water polo coach. So treading water lightly means that you kind of sit tight and see what comes up. As soon as it's validated, we adopt it. That's one strategy for the followers.
Yeah.
But who writes the future and who determines the future and who writes the history? Very, very rarely the followers.
All right. You're so true. So true.
Okay.
Anyway, this is, I can't
Yeah,
thank
it
you
was.
for bringing forward this all. And I hope this, I'm so pleased to see the students that we have here. And also thank you so much for your slides, because this will generate a lot of